And before I start anything, I need to go ahead and put a major disclaimer right here. I know the title of this video may be seeming like it's pitting this against that, but this is not going to be a Lolita versus cosplay. This is why it's better, this is why that's better, or that's why this sucks. And no, I couldn't think of a better title. So yeah, there will be zero bashing of anything that is not Lolita. Likewise, I am also not going to be explaining cosplay. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you likely already know the difference. My reason for making this video is that something happened some time ago. Basically, I was visiting home, happened to see some family, and it just so happened that certain family members told certain other family members about me, my Instagram, what are these things that I'm wearing, which of course led to, oh, do you know that she's doing this? Yada, 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 you know, and so forth. And so I had a relative come to me asking, you know, seriously, what is the point of what I do? Is it like cosplay? Because it seems like it's cosplay. And of course, as an outsider seeing this kind of stuff, this relative is a bit of a nerd. They're into comics, play a lot of video games, maybe some anime. So they're very familiar with the whole aspect of cosplay and such. But to them, you know, seeing Lolita, I guess they assume that it's just like another variant of that. So I explained that no, it's not really. It is just simply an everyday fashion. You wear it like you would ordinary clothes. And this is where things got a little bit confusing. This was a while ago, so I don't remember exact wordings, but the gist was that from what they had seen, cosplay itself doesn't always have to be the whole getup. Basically, from what they had seen is that there are people who will often choose their day-to-day outfits based off of a character of sorts. Maybe they want to be Pikachu, Diva, Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't know. So they'll do it, but it'll be like, you know, cosplay light. So what I took from that is that maybe they were talking about like Disney bounding or stuff. Now, I've only ever actually heard Disney bounding being used, but I think bounding itself does in fact just describe dressing as you would every day, but inspired by that character. I think that's what they meant, but for them, that whole thing was still cosplaying, and they thought that Lolita was the same exact thing. Now, at the time, I was kind of taken back because I'd never heard that kind of like explanation before. Like, I could get why someone would just straight up call it like cosplay because they don't know. But in this case, they were giving this reason. So I was trying to figure out how can I explain that Lolita is like its own street fashion? How could I get across that it's not based off of a character? Explaining the fact that it is based off of historical clothing didn't really seem to be enough, especially when we have Sweet Lolita, which doesn't really look like it's historical. It just kind of grew into its own thing. So by this point, it was still clear that for them, it was still more cosplay, because Lolita still fell into the element of here's what you're trying to look like. If not a character, then a theme or an era or something like that. Like, Lolita is its own style with different brands. You know, it's like having a bunch of pair of jeans, except it's not jeans, it's this other thing. I wish I had made this video like right after it had happened, because I know while the conversation was taking place, it's like we were struggling to reach the right kind of communication where I would get their point and they would get my point. When they were explaining the dressing up, you know, as like characters without actually doing so, they didn't use the term bounding, but that's what I took it as. Now, I do want to say that this person was not trying to convince me that Lolita was something that it's not. Like, this was just something that they were genuinely curious about, and it was just really hard for them to see Lolita as not like cosplay. So because they were, you know, so patient and just genuinely curious, there was like no ill intentions, I didn't mind the back and forth conversation. Now, I don't actually think I made my point fully by the end. We eventually just moved on to other stuff, and that's Okay, I don't need everybody to know everything about Lolita. And I also don't expect everyone to take what I say as face value. So if someone tells me that what I'm wearing is cosplay and I tell them no it's not, but they refuse to believe that, I'm just gonna move on with my day. I'm not gonna really try to convince them. And again, in this case, that's not what this person was saying. They were just trying to understand why is it not cosplay. So I am going to be mentioning some stuff that I didn't during our conversation because again, I was like taken back. I'm really not good with one-on-one talk. I need time to process things and really like put together what I'm gonna say. Except for this video, I didn't put together a script or anything, which I usually do. It's just stupid because again, I'm already like working with like a older memory, but we're just gonna keep going. Let's go ahead and talk about the whole bounding thing. Use your own wardrobe to try and put together an outfit inspired by a character that you like. And it could be from any fandom, any game, any movie, any show, anything. Now me personally, I don't know that I would call that cosplay, but either way, even if you're just dressed normally, the point is that you are basing your outfit off of a specific character. You are imaging yourself as someone else. That by definition is pretty much costume. Now, when I say costume, I don't want that to be like a derogatory thing. I say that because I've seen some people get offended when people say it's not a costume, like costume is some negative thing. There's nothing wrong with costumes, nothing wrong with cosplays. It is just different from what Lolita is. And what is Lolita? It is a street fashion started in Japan based off of Western historical clothing, and it's been around long enough that it has grown into a few different genres, got several different subcategories of Lolita. It has evolved like any other street fashion. It is its own style. When you see it, you know what it is. It's a look much like goth or punk. But for me, what really like legitimizes it is the brands. I'm not just talking about like the big brands. Any brand, indie, Taobao, whoever. Seasonally, they will put out new releases, just like Chanel or Louis Vuitton or any other big luxury brand. And when you go to one of these brand websites, you know this is specific to Lolita fashion. Now, these clothes may look a little bit different, but they're no less legitimate than any of these other places. You have all these individual brands putting out specific Lolita aesthetic items, new items that they created for Lolita, having absolutely nothing to do with any kind of character. And yeah, I think that pretty much explains it. Lolita comes in many different styles, but when you look at it, you can tell that it's Lolita. And of course, there is always items out there that are non-Lolita that you know you could make Lolita. Definitely a lot of those Loliable items. Also, I know that I just said that brands don't put out things based off of costumes, but obviously we know that sometimes they do. Certain anime will work together with a brand and they'll put out their own little thing. But I wouldn't necessarily feel the need to mention this if I were trying to explain it to someone like the relative. It just might further complicate things. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. The whole point of this video really is that if at any point in the future, if you're a Lolita and someone happens to ask you like the same thing or wants to know why it's not cosplay or a costume, this is why. If anyone out there feels like they can explain it in much shorter terms than me and in a better way, which I'm sure a lot of you can, please do in the comments. I would love to hear what your answer is for this kind of stuff. Would love to get some tips because this is something that had never been asked of me before, so I didn't know how to take it. So I didn't know what to say until after the fact because it just wasn't really something that I ever thought of. So if you've got any advice for me, I will happily take that. Aside from that, I don't really think I have much more to say, so I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thank you for watching if you watched, and I will see you next time. Bye!